Hello and welcome once again to Baked Beans Garage. We're dumping $10,000 into an $800 ship box as just another Tuesday. In front of me I present to you probably the only 1986 Volvo 740 turbo diesel wagon that has both driven around Watkins Glen International in New York and also leaked about 2 gallons of various fluids onto my shop floor in the 3 days it's been parked here. This belongs not to me, but to a very close friend, and I have been entrusted to fix the 8 million things that are wrong with it, because I'm an idiot. So, against my better judgment, let's take a closer look. So as is common knowledge, Volvo owners are pretty self-selective, and they usually take pretty good care of their cars. Let's see if that holds up here. Hey big fella, what you doing in there? So starting from this side, we have an engine. This is a D24T. It's actually a Volkswagen engine, but they only ever came in Volvos in the States. They also put them in the Volkswagen LT overseas, but that doesn't matter, we didn't get those. So yeah, T meaning turbo. There was the D24, which is earlier, 84 and before. 85 and 86 we got the D24T, which came with a turbo. As you can see, that's a little shinier than everything else. The current owner put on a new injection pump to try to get it to run, and it does run very poorly. I don't think it makes much compression at all. It smokes like a freight train, and doesn't make any boost, but we'll get to that. A few other things that don't work in here. None of this, the brakes just aren't there. No glow plugs. You can see the workaround. It's actually a good battery. No go handle, but a good battery. Moving slightly to this side, power steering doesn't work. AC doesn't work. There's no coolant in it because it all went into my yard. There's a block heater there which doesn't work. And you may have already seen it, the big fella. That's an HX35. That belongs on a 5.9 Cummins, not on a 2.4 in a Volvo. It doesn't make any boost. It'll never spool. Why is it on there? Pennsyltucky rednecks. Let's not talk about it. And now that the hood's off, I suppose the disassembly may as well start with this Sobe catch can. It's only appropriate being a Volkswagen engine because of course Sobe is part of the Volkswagen Automotive Group. You got Volkswagen, Audi, Seat, and Sobe. So that is OEM. Didn't bother recording all of the boring stuff, taking bolts out, but about ready to crack this cooling system open and see how much comes out. It's probably either not much or none. The odds of this hose coming off without a fight are probably about the same as there actually being any coolant in it. Luckily these are regular hose clamps, not Satan clamps, although I suspect that to be aftermarket. Well, I'm pleasantly surprised. Even more surprised that it's green. Although I do know it got filled up before it got put on a trailer. It's already slowing down and there's probably a quart in there. That means the rest of it's in my yard. You don't need grass. But yeah, I'm turning this thing over by hand from the power steering pulley pretty easily. I don't know how this ran. That's no compression. Anyway, now that I don't need that belt, observe Americans, look, a power steering pulley that uses bolts to affix it to the pump. You know, not looking at anyone in particular, Chevy. See how I didn't need a stupid little ass puller to get that off? You love to see it, huh? So real quick, this car has a clickety-clackety electric fuel pump in it. I'm going to show you how to calibrate that for this Bosch VE pump. All you need is one of them. So if you have an old diesel like this, you do not need a fuel pump. The only reason you'd have a lift pump is if there were a leak and you were too lazy to fix it. Fix your leaks, don't have a fuel pump, and it runs great. So I skipped some stuff again, but the transmission's all unplugged, cross members out, all the mounts are unbolted. It's been a while since I pulled out one of these Longwords engines, but I guess I'm going to find out what I missed and what its tensile strength is. It's the starter wire, what I forgot. Apparently it's of a heavy enough gauge to prevent that. That's an awful lot of work just to figure out what transmission you have. It's a ZF22. So now it's out on a stand. We can get a better look at this fancy German carburetor here. The only big difference between this, well, apart from the other two cylinders, from a 4-cylinder and a Rabbit, is you have this crossover pipe, what runs this, I don't know, idle compensator thing. Volvo owners are too fancy to run a cable, so they have this instead. Very fancy. Here we can see that. And it's not even apart yet. We're already finding some damage. That their power steering brackets broke right half in two, but I've already identified that issue. They let Volvo build that part. That's why it broke there. So yeah, let's start peeling it apart and see what we can save and what probably most of it we can't, given the many disconcerting noises it was making. Let's get into it. So first impressions of the top end, she really isn't so bad considering the oil was
When was the last time the Volvo had an oil change, bud?
Yeah, not too much galling or spalling or chunks missing. It actually looks pretty tidy up here. Towards the front end we can see this goofy water pump tensioner arrangement, these slotted holes here, and that goes... We'll get to that later, but yeah, pro tip, always crack your head bolts before you take the engine out of the car if you're putting it on a stand. Now you're going to watch me struggle because I forgot to do that. There's already been a casualty and I had to run down to the local Extortion Auto for a set of them. So I have a ratchet strap and a fairly sturdy bench over there. Let's see what if I can do. I'm actually pretty sure there's a picture of this set up in the factory service manual for Volvo. I think that's sturdy enough, but I'm worried I'm going to come across a second-hand head gasket leak being tied to the E36 here, but I don't see why this shouldn't work. So instead of being an idiot twice in a row, I figured I'd take the injectors out now. You can buy a special socket for these, but a deep well 27mm works just as well. The only problem I have run across is that the little nipples for the return lines can get in the way of the socket, so you might have to ever so gently bend those back a little bit to get the socket on. But it works well enough. So that cheapo video camera is terrible, both in low light and close-up focusing, so we've switched to the phone here. Yeah, pretty much exactly what I expected. There's about no cross-hatching left. Lots of scoring, as you can see, even some evidence of moisture, and the beginning of some pitting, and this ring ridge is pretty pronounced. So, yeah, she's just tired. I mean, this was driven by Grandma every day to church. Not sure how it got that bad. Right here on the top of the piston we could see 76.48. That is the original bore, so these have never been messed with. I don't know what that plus means, but that is the original bore. We got a little Mickey Mouse here. That's where the swirl chamber discharges. Over here on the head we're even crustier. If you're not familiar, these are the swirl chambers or pre-ignition chambers. That is where the injector shoots into, and it swirls around and starts burning and then comes into the cylinder. And that's what makes these heads so hard to deck, because these are super hard metal. Obviously this is just cast aluminum. But to deck these properly, you have to pull these out, surface the head, and then put them back in perfectly flush. And a lot of machine shops will either mess it up or won't do it at all. The head gasket, we can see a lot of buildup from old coolant. At 2 notches right there, that means it's a 1.5 millimeter thick gasket, which is original. It's also an L-ring, which, yeah, has never been a part before. Or they used OEM stuff, who knows. And you've probably already noticed these cracks. That is super common with these 1.6 and 2.4 liter diesels. Volkswagen even put out a service bulletin a while back that said as long as that's under a millimeter, it's fine. These are a little worse than I have seen. They're a little wider there. But yeah, this head would be usable. If it's flat, let's hope it's flat. Yeah, we'll get there. Valve seats, she's just tired. But yeah, that cracking comes from extreme EGTs. Not sure how that would have happened in this grandma station wagon. But yeah, pretty much just what I expected. So yeah, let's get this bottom end apart and see what those bearings look like. So it came to my attention that the harmonic balancer bolt is torqued to 225 foot-pounds, which was nice. It did come off eventually. Other things came off, but now it's time to make a mess. Again, more or less as expected. Lots of oil coking. She's been hot. There's some stuff here. That's metal. I'm to assume bearing material? I can't tell yet. We'll see how they look. And here, there's still some of that dark hazelnut Nutella. And that's all chunks of metal, too. A lot of it looks like aluminum. I'm really not sure yet. She's minty. Yeah, so this tube, there is just no ring tension left. Resto in pesto. Well, it looks like I ran out of memory card just as I got the first piston out, but they're all out now. You can have a little better look at the walls. They're really not horrible. Just scored. They might come back after a hone. They might not. My guess is not, but hey, I didn't realize these had oil squirters. That's cute. Good for high rip'ems all the way up there at the 5,400 RPM red line. Screaming. And well, the bearings they're pretty bad. Not horrible, not great. A little bit of scuffing on the pistons, but then we got number 6 here. Seems to have given us all that metal down in the pickup in the pan, and then our bearing is just as bad. We got coking and spalling and all manner of other evil things. The journals don't look half bad. I haven't mic'd them yet, but we'll get there. So yeah, I'm gonna move on and see what the mains look like. So given what the rod bearings look like, I think I'm gonna start with number 6. You also may have noticed I took out the bolts for the rear main seal before I got it on the stand. Past stupidity pays dividends. This oil pan gasket is just rock solid. Goodbye. A little bit of galling. Obviously some metal went through there, but not horrible. So I think I've seen enough. Now, it's not that bad. It can definitely be brought back, and it will be being brought back for a future project, but not in this car. The benefactor wants this to be nice and reliable, another 100,000 miles easy. So I'm gonna hold on to this one, but what am I gonna put in the wagon? Well, it is no secret that D24Ts are quite the rare breed nowadays in 2022, but luckily, my friends are hoarders. So I have this much nicer looking one that doesn't quite fit in the frame. I'm told it's rebuilt, and given its cleanliness, I'm inclined to believe it, but it's still gonna come apart, and I'm gonna measure everything. Make sure my clearances are good, make sure she's nice and healthy before we go back in the car. I also have an original turbo. It's going to be pretty much stock minus an intercooler. So yeah, that's about it for this episode. If you have watched this far, just know I appreciate you. If you like seeing old hoopties come back to life, subscribe if you feel so inclined, or like. I'm going to actually try to stick with the channel this time and grow it. Because I hate working and making other people rich, I'd rather do this. So if you support that, support the channel. Yeah. So this has been Baked Beans Garage. I am Chinchilla. I will see you next time.